Hello, hello, hello. Welcome on in, everybody. How's everybody doing? How are you guys doing? Vincent just got home. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Welcome to the channel. If you're new here, my name is Tanya. Welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you guys. We're doing an afternoon live. It's kind of afternoonish. So, if you're not new to the channel, welcome back. But if you are new to the channel, we normally go live later in the evening. But I'm trying to do like maybe 2 lives. I don't know. Who knows what I'm doing? I don't know what I'm doing. But my name is Tanya or TitaniumBuilt. Call me either or. If you guys do like the content, I hope you'll hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, all the good things, for engagement. So we're going to get right into it because we've got a live to do tonight too. I saw that Jan and Isabel was in here. I was like, whoa, is it my lucky day or what? Hey, Mary Beth. Isabel's probably ready for bed. Hey, Jan, welcome in, everybody. It's good to see you guys. Hey, Isabel. Hey, Mike, welcome in. It's good to see you guys. PKC, we got Ashley. Crystal's here. Welcome in, everybody. And I saw Mary Beth had where's that? I saw that she had there it is, an anniversary, 14 months. The longest membership I have on the channel is 18 months. So, girl, you're there. You're there with me. You've been there with me since the beginning. Since the beginning of my memberships, because me and Vincent were checking it out last night. So I was like really excited. I was like looking to see who had been here the longest. And of course, Vincent, he had a membership first. God love him. And thank you for gifting out 5 memberships. I don't know who got them, but thank you so much. And you know what? Everybody that got a membership, Cheryl, where the heck Cheryl? I haven't seen Cheryl in 2 days. Is Cheryl in here? Where's Cheryl? Cheryl, Kelly, Jesus Loves Brenda, Amber, Angie. I'm sorry, Angie got it. I haven't seen. Is Cheryl here? Okay, Cheryl's here. I see Rose Bouquet. I see that. I see that Mary Beth said hi to her, so she has to be here somewhere. I just thought of that. I was like, did I see her last night? Hey, Wiz. Hey, Lenora. Welcome in, everybody. I'll notice when you're not here. Hey, Albeam. Mike Jetson, 13 months. Wow, that's awesome. Cheryl, 13 months. Look at that. There she is. Making me, I was worried for a second. I really was. You made my belly hurt. I was like, where's Cheryl? Into the break. Welcome in. Welcome, 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 welcome. And we do have a special guest again tonight. Rocky, my cat, he's taking a nap and he's been doing much better, in the area that we were talking about the other day. So I'm hoping he's on the mend, but he's just been hanging out and he was hanging out with Vincent last night. It was so cute. So cute. Oh, Ember's in here. Hi, Ember. Well, welcome in. It's so nice to see Isabel in here. It's a good treat. I never get to see her or my Jan. I did. Thank you, Mary Beth, I was going to tell you that. Thank you so much for ordering from my shop. I appreciate it. I've got it actually sitting right here. I'm going to steam it, wrap it up tonight, and then go out tomorrow. Thank you so much for ordering from my store. She orders from my store all the time. I love it. I thought that it was before we get started, I totally thought it was something I missed because it's like, and it's in an app, like in a folder, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of like not hidden, but it's just there. And sometimes I'll get notifications on something else in that same folder. So I went there to look today and I was like, oh my gosh, did I forget something? But I did it. So good thing. But thank you guys again for being here. I don't know what's going on with this case, but we're going to figure it out together. Because I was like, what is this? What's this document about? So there's a new document that came out in the Idaho 4 case, and it's for Ann Taylor, I'm assuming. And this is Jay Logston. So I'm assuming this is either for Jay or Ann. We're going to read it together. I didn't read this portion. I don't know why. I read down here like a dummy. So there's where Ann comes in. So I saw in the chat, somebody was saying maybe their salary, like what they're getting paid and they need more or something like, and I could be, or I thought for sure she was like, I'm dipping because when I read it, and now that I'm reading it with you guys, I feel like I'm kind of a dummy, but I saw second seat and I thought Ann Taylor, second seat. Why is she second seat? Because, she's supposed to be first. So I kind of feel like a dummy there, but we're going to read this together. Oh, thank you, Catherine. He'll get treats with that too. Yeah. Oh, his ear just flipped, like flickered. He knows. You got some treats coming, Rocky. He loves treats. That's his thing. You go to the kitchen, that cat's getting a treat. It's so funny. Did you guys see this document? It's not on the actual like in Idaho website, um, but I got seen it from the docket, and I was like, what in the world? What in the world is this? So let me see if I can make it. Can I make it any bigger? I don't think I can. I don't know how to do anything on this app, but I think you can read it pretty okay. Actually, it's over here. Yeah. Oh, whoa. There we go. That helped. That helps. And thanks again for everybody for your anniversaries popping up. I love that. I love that. I'm gonna clean my glasses off really quick before we read. Okay. So we're gonna read this together. It's like six pages, but it's not really that long. How in the hell did these get dirty? Like when I don't even have them out of the case, other than when they're on my face. Do you want to hear something funny? I don't know why it's not really funny, but every pair of glasses I've ever owned in my whole life, sunglasses, regular glasses, I always get my blind eye scratched. Like it'll get really scratched on that side. I'm like, what am I running into that I don't even know? Like to scratch up my glasses like that. It's kind of funny. So I'm gonna read this to y'all, and you're gonna help me with this. I think it might have to do actually with, like you guys said, with getting money, but because we know that Ann is getting paid $200 an hour. Jay Logston is getting paid $180 an hour. Now, the other lady, I don't even know her name. I forget her name. She's just there. She's just there to sit. You know what I mean? Like the lady with the brown hair. I can't remember her name. Put in the chat if you guys know it. Do you have a ring on? Oh, maybe. That could be it, Liz. A ring. I do wear a ring. That could be. You could solve the problem. I love that. Because I'm like, what is going on? That could be it. Like, because I do this with my hair and stuff. Like I mess with my hair. That could be it. So I'll read this and we're going to figure it out together. Like I said, the replacement capital criminal defense provider agreement shall be effective beginning July 15th, 2024, by and between the county of Kootenai, a political subdivision of the state of Idaho, by and through its board of commissioners, hereafter Kootenai County, and the county of Latah, a political subdivision of the state of Idaho, by and through its board of commissioners, hereafter Latah County. So, and Jay Logston, attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Idaho and death penalty qualified, second seat in the state of Idaho with a current address of, and it gives a P.O. box in Coeur d'Alene. Whereas the prosecuting attorney for Latah County has brought criminal charges of 4 counts of first degree M, in which a death notice may be filed, which crime allegedly occurred in Latah County against Brian Christopher Kohlberger. And whereas defendant is entitled to be represented by attorneys at public expense, and whereas Latah County has previously provided and is desirous of continuing to provide the services of competent counsel to represent the defendant, to represent and defend defendant with a team of death penalty qualified attorneys. Well, let me put my desk on a little bit. I wonder where they draw the line. Do you know what I mean? Like, okay, so like how much money do they get? Like, do they have a set amount? Can they go all out? You know what I mean? Go all out. Like, I wonder how that works with public defenders, because public defenders normally don't do that kind of stuff. I mean, they really don't help that, like, really, not like they should, I feel like. So I'm like just really surprised, I guess, by seeing these documents. Whereas Latah County has previously provided, whereas Kootenai County employees second seat attorney as its chief deputy public defender, who is licensed member of the Idaho State Bar and otherwise competent to represent defendant in the proceedings referred to above, and whereas Kootenai County, Latah County, second seat attorney, and Ann C. Taylor are parties to a capital criminal provider agreement regarding the prosecution of defendant, wherein Ann Taylor is designated as lead attorney for defendant and Logston is designated as second seat attorney for defendant. I didn't read that. The first time, that was my mistake. And whereas the original agreement needs to be terminated and replaced with a new agreement due to Ann C. Taylor's resignation form, the Kootenai County Public Defender's Office, effective July 15th, 2024. See, when it said resignation, I was like, what? I don't know. And the enactment of Idaho Code gives the code, which releases counties from any further financial or legal obligation to provide indignant defense and requires the state of Idaho to assume the full financial and legal obligation to provide indignant public defense. So are they saying they want, what are they saying here? They want Latah County to pay for it? Because wouldn't it be Latah County paying for it? Like, wouldn't Latah County pay for his defense? It's in their county. Therefore, pursuant to Idaho Code, it gives the code, Latah County and Kootenai County and second seat attorney do hereby reaffirm and second seat attorneys appoint to the above referenced case as second seat attorney for defendant upon the following terms and conditions. They got terms and conditions. Let me I gotta do something really quick. Like, my eyes bothering me. And I don't want to yeah. I put eye drops in earlier, so they're like, something's bothering me. Okay, we're good. We're good. Sorry about that. Hey, Ms. Rosebud. Welcome in, everybody. Welcome on in. If you guys don't mind, take a second, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, all that good stuff for engagement. If you do appreciate the coverage. So, the duties of attorney. I'm really so surprised that I don't know. Has anybody? I haven't seen. I don't know if I've really watched a case with a public defender. I think they always have attorneys. We've always seen our people with attorneys. Now we got Sarah Boone. That's a whole mess. But she's not on trial yet. Let me see what you guys are saying. He really wants the spotlight. Hey, Ozzy. Welcome in. I just saw someone say you're in. Hey, welcome in. Welcome in, everybody. Oh, how am I doing? About head DM from the channel. Shouldn't be pressing buttons over here. So these are the obligations of second seat attorney. Second seat attorney reaffirms and accepts appointed as second seat attorney for a defendant throughout the trial stage of the above referenced criminal charges. Defendant shall be second seat attorney's client within the meaning of applicable laws, rules, and regulations governing the practice of law in Idaho. Second seat attorney is required to devote such time and effort as is reasonably necessary to meet all state and federal requirements for effective assistance of counsel. That's a lot. Conflicts of interest. Second seat attorney shall inform the court of any possible conflicts under the Idaho Rules of Professional Conduct Rules 1.7 through 1.11. Thank you, Mary Beth, for gifting out memberships again. Look at that. Who got a membership? Make sure you thank Mary Beth for getting a membership. That's so amazing. Elsa, Mel, Teresa, Alaskan, Mary. Welcome to our, our fam. We just did a live, what was it, yesterday? Yeah, yesterday. It was a little venting sesh I needed. Make sure to check it out. And then, I don't know if you saw my post today on the members only tab, but that was like comedic gold, in my eyes. If you saw the post and you remember the live, I'm just accepting my fate. Conflicts of interest, warranty of fitness to practice law. Second seat attorney warrants that he is duly licensed to practice law in the state courts of Idaho and is a member of good standing of the Idaho State Bar. General performance expectations without limiting to obligations of second seat attorney set forth elsewhere in this agreement or by the applicable laws, rules, and regulations governing the practice of law in Idaho. Second seat attorney shall make a reasonable effort to comply with the performance guideline for criminal defense representation promulgated by the National Legal Aid of Defender Association and incorporated by this reference of Idaho Code, gives the code. Such reasonable efforts include legitimate and articulate reasons for deviating from any particular performance guideline. So long as the reason for the deviation is legitimate and articulate, the deviation will be deemed a reasonable effort to comply with the performance expectations. And then it says here, capital murder defense expectations. Second seat attorney shall also Be familiar with the 2003 ABA guidelines for the appointment and performance of defense counsel in death penalty cases, standards for capital cases. Be familiar with the 2008 supplementary guidelines for the mitigation function of defense teams in death penalty cases. Be familiar with the requirements as set forth in Idaho criminal rules for 44.3.2. Assurance. The parties of governmental entities or employees subject to statutory and constitutional restrictions concerning the acceptance of liability. The parties' liabilities are further governed by the Idaho Tort Claims Act. It is the intention of the parties that each will be responsible for and shall be at times during the period of this agreement insured for its own acts and omission and those of its employees, officers, agents, and contractors. Damn, they want it all. They got to have it, I guess. Look at this. Records. Second seat attorney agrees to maintain accounts and records, including personal property, financial, and propaganda records, such sufficiently and properly reflect all direct and indirect cost of services performed in the performance of this agreement for a period of 5 years after termination of this agreement, unless permission to destroy them before the time period is granted by Latah County. Okay, that means he'll keep his mouth shut for 5 years after the case. Sounds like it. Further, second seat attorney agrees to maintain records which sufficiently and properly reflect all direct and indirect cost of any subcontracts or personal service contracts for a period of 5 years after termination of this agreement, unless permission to destroy them before the time period is granted by Latah County. Such records shall include, but not limited to, documentation of any funds expended by a second seat attorney for said personal service contracts or subcontracts, documentation of the nature of the service rendered, and records which demonstrate the amount of time spent by each subcontractor, personal service contractor rendering service pursuant to the subcontract or personal service contract. Man, I wouldn't even want to write that out. I'm over here saying it. I'm like, I don't even think I want to write that out. That's too much. Hey, Jeffrey, head. Does anyone know in Moscow main players? No, I don't. I don't, Jeffrey. I don't. What's a pet spa? I'm like, what's a pet spa? That sounds amazing. Is it for like your pet? Like, is it like to wash them? Let me know, Mary Beth, because that's just, I mean, I feel like maybe my dogs need it. Can't give for my cat. He would die. He would be like, I ain't doing it. Okay, so licensing. Second seat attorney will immediately notify Latah County in writing when he becomes aware of the complaint lodged in the Idaho State Bar or any other state where the second seat attorney is licensed. Has resulted in reprimand, suspension, and disbarment of any attorney who is a member of the defense team staff or working for the defense team. Attorney fees. Compensation for second seat attorney shall be paid as follows. Man, I like to make my own, put my own number. Latah County shall pay Kootenai. Okay, what is this? Latah County shall pay Kootenai County at the rate of $180 per hour for second seat attorney hours worked as second seat attorney during the 40-hour regular work week, and shall pay second seat attorney directly at the rate of $180 per hour for hours worked as second seat attorney in a 40-hour work week. Well, wow. Even that's a lot of money, y'all. I mean, if you work one day, 8 hours, and you times that by 180, 1,440 times 5, 7,200. I'm out the door. Well, he must be doing a damn good job. Reimbursement shall be made with proof of receipt for mileage and lodging and meal costs directly to the person incurring the cost. Wow, he doesn't want to pay for nothing. Is he a YouTuber? Sorry, had to. General provisions. Agreement not a fixed fee contract. This agreement is not and is not intended to be a fixed fee contract for provisions of public defender services. The parties hereto have to endeavor to ensure that defendant will receive such services without undue limitation on the amount of time or expense required to provide the same. Assignment: second seat attorney may not assign, subcontract, or delegate his rights and duties hereunder to any person or entity without the prior written consent of Latah County Board of Commissioners. Any person seeking assignment shall agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. Attorney fees. In the event any party hereto initiates any or defends any legal action or proceedings to enforce or interpret any of the terms of this agreement, the prevailing party in any such action or proceeding shall be entitled to recover from the losing party its reasonable cost and attorney's fees. Special service provider. What's those? The parties agree that second seat attorney is a special service provider for Latah County and is not an employer, agent of Latah County Board of Commissioners or Latah County. As a special service provider, second seat attorney is not entitled to work compensation, health care insurance, retirement benefits, or any other benefit of employment with Latah County otherwise available to Latah County employees. Because you get your insurance. The Latah County Board of Commissioners and Latah County shall have no supervisory I can't say it over the performance of this agreement by second seat attorney or the defense team of which he is part. Merger. This agreement embodies the sole understanding of the parties. There are no other oral or written agreements outside of this agreement. No modification, amendment, or addition to this agreement shall be effective unless agreed to by the parties in a written instrument duly executed by second seat attorney by the Latah County Board of Commissioners. Good golly. Hey, R-baller. Welcome in. Welcome on in. We are reading this new document. I'm not the smartest, I guess, but cookie in the batch. I don't know. That's what you want to say it, how you want to say it. But I thought she was leaving. I don't know why I thought she was out. She was dipping, but I did. I sincerely did. I was like, did she say she's like leaving? Like she's leaving? Like she's out? She's retiring? Like, I mean, like, I really thought that when I read this. I don't know where my brain was at. My brain was, I don't know. Because I really don't see her ever leaving, but not that, not this case. This case is too much. This is too big. And that's a lot of money. I mean, like, let's just see here. Let's do ban. Oops. $1,600 a day, $8,000 a week. How many weeks has Kohlberger been in jail? If somebody can help me with that one, that would be great. I mean, it's been over a year, so it's got to be at least like what, 70, 80? 70, 80 weeks? I don't know. Third-party beneficiary rights. This agreement is not intended to create, nor shall it be in any way interpreted or construed to create any third-party beneficiary rights to any person not a party hereto unless otherwise expressly provided herein. The captions are the same, like I'm just going to read through these kind of and tell you what they are. They shall not define or limit the scope or intent of any terms or provisions contained herein. Pretty much shut your mouth. No presumptions shall exist in favor or against any party to this agreement as a result of the drafting and preparation of this agreement. Venue and governing law. In the event an action is brought to enforce or interpret this agreement, the parties submit to the exclusive jurisdiction of the courts of the state of Idaho and agree that venue of any such action shall be in Latah County, Idaho. So the venue sounds like has to be in Idaho, Latah County. So they're not going to go out of Latah County. So that means they're not going to try to move. Okay. Because it's saying Latah County, you know what I mean? So I guess that we've got that set. We see it. I don't know. The validity, performance, and construction of this agreement shall be governed by the laws of the state of Idaho. The original agreement is terminated as of the effective date of this placement agreement provided. However, the Latah County remains obligated to pay for fees and costs incurred prior to the termination of the original agreement pursuant to the terms of the original agreement. You better pay me. And consistent with Idaho code, it gives the code. This agreement shall be terminated. effective October 1st, 2024, at which time the state of Idaho shall assume the full financial and legal obligation to provide a defense to defendant pursuant to law. So it sounds like they're going to like shift it over. Like, is Kootenai County right now like paying for that? Like, maybe they're paying for it and they're going to send it over to Idaho effective October, and they're going to like, take it over. That's what it sounds like to me. Well, hot damn, Hey, Glowbug. Welcome in. Hi, Micro Kimmy. Hey, welcome in, everybody. And I think you guys said Chosen was in here, so welcome in, Chosen. And it's really good to see you, Glowbug. I like your little car or your little ambulances. It's really cute. I should put something about my name, like an arm, like a titanium arm or something. So that's the document there. We're gonna get to the podcast because it's a lot better. I didn't realize that there was a brand new one out. I went to look. There was one, but it's hard to play it because it doesn't play it through like regular like Google Chrome. It plays it through Apple Podcast, and for some reason, Apple Podcast doesn't like to come up on the computer for me very well. We've had this problem before where I've had like put the mic over to like the speaker for you guys, but I got on there today, and there's a new one. So what I'm going to do is we're going to play the new one. We have like 3. I think that I have to I'm going to post as just regular videos for you guys. So if you've missed any of the podcast, I'll have them all on, the homepage under videos or under the Idaho playlist. You'll be able to find them. And I'll make sure that they're marked, that they're the podcast, because then it'll just be the podcast if, you can't watch the whole live. Where's my mouse? Okay. And I will put up, like overlays, pictures and stuff like that. So this one is going to be with Howard Blum. He's back. We did just read his book. I don't even know if I have it still under my desk. I do still have it. Okay. So if you weren't here, we read his book. We read the book. We did it. It was okay. It wasn't too bad, I guess. But it was When the Night Comes Falling. And so that's the title of this podcast that we're going to watch. And this is season 2. We've watched all of season 1. So if you want to catch up, like season 1 was really good. Season 2, it's been good so far. Like they came back for a second season because, they thought they were going to do this in 1 season. And there's another podcast that's the same way. So they're the same way. I forgot to go through the commercials for you guys. So I'll have to do that really quick. And it might be a little loud because I can't control the volume. It'll be a commercial probably.
This is your moment.
Gas at Exxon. Okay, picture this. Conquer the weekend and
identified, well written and hearing.
Visit Hyundai.
Okay, we'll start it from there. But thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate you so much. Just want to let you guys know. I just want to let you. I really do. No, so Ann didn't. Micro Kimmy. I'm gonna change my title because I literally thought she did. They are switching. So she's going from Kootenai County. This is what it sounds like. The financial burden has been on Kootenai County for Jay Logston and for Ann Taylor. And it sounds like in October, they're going to shift it over to Latah County and have them start paying for it, which I don't know why I don't know. I guess because she's based out of Kootenai County. That's why they're paying her there. And now they don't want to pay her anymore because it's expensive. We're doing the math. I mean, she's making lots of money. $8,000 a week. It's crazy. I know, but I need to change my thing because everyone's gonna be like, did she quit? I'm like, no, she didn't quit. She didn't quit. I just thought she did with my eyes my eye. I read like half of it. I did you wrong. I did you dirty. I don't usually do that to you guys, but I read like half of it. And I was like, what am I reading? And then I jumped on. I tricked you guys. I didn't mean to. Oh, Mary Beth, I'm sorry. I just read that. Yeah, she wants the money. That's what I thought too. I was like, she wants this money. She wants this money. So we'll play this podcast. I'm gonna make it up with the podcast, and I'll put some visuals up for you guys. And this is gonna be, like I said, with Howard Blum. It says in-depth interview with Howard Blum. He's gonna share what he thinks happened the night of the homicides.
USA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Hyundai, there's joy in every journey.
It's such a harrowing account, and it's so well written, and hearing you speak about it now, I can't imagine the level of emotional regulation a human would have to be in the car with your own parent, knowing that the police are looking for you, the world is looking for you, and your car has been identified.
And until the trial, I'd like to think that When the Night Comes Falling is the best source of information to what really happened.
This is The Idaho Massacre, a production of KT Studios and iHeartRadio. Season 2, Episode 5, When the Night Comes Falling, a Requiem for the Idaho Student Murders. I'm Courtney Armstrong, a producer at KT Studios with Stephanie Lydecker and Gabe Castillo. With the gag order firmly in place, reporting and fact-finding has been difficult and often non-traditional. But even given those restraints, a pivotal new book has emerged, written by Howard Blum. The Kirkus Review says it, quote, thoughtfully probes into the motives of key players in this intriguing yet profoundly unsettling story.
The book shares the months leading up to the murders of Xana Kernodle, her boyfriend Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogan, and Kaylee Gonzalez.
Bone-chilling Brian Koberger details emerge.
Did the accused killer of the 4 University of Idaho students have a deadly obsession with one of the victims? Chilling revelations about the murders are detailed in When the Night Comes Falling.
Stephanie and I sat down with Howard Blum to discuss his book, which just came out on June 25th. We started out by asking him to provide a bit of context to his career.
When I finished graduate school at Stanford, I came out and worked at the Village Voice for a little bit. And then I was hired by the New York Times, and I was there for about 12 and a half years as an investigative reporter, was nominated for 2 Pulitzers by the Times and won a lot of awards. And then I went on and I've done 16 books, many bestsellers, wrote for Vanity Fair for a couple of decades and won magazine awards. And so I've been doing this, knocking on doors, trying to put together stories, trying to get readers interested in what I hope are compelling, true narratives.
How did you land on the title? It was an intriguing title.
Well, When the Night Comes Falling, I'm a big Bob Dylan fan. When the Night Comes Falling from the Sky is a Bob Dylan song that always sort of plays in my head. And you're in a dark night in Moscow. I remember walking the streets of Moscow, walking right down King Road. And I was sort of struck by that song. I could hear that song sort of playing in my head. Your letters burning in the fireplace, and when the night comes falling from the sky. And I thought, well, falling from the sky is a little too much, so just when the night comes falling. I remember being out in front of the murder house not long after it happened, and they just walled it up, put a plywood wall in front of it. I was thinking to myself, well, was that to keep people from breaking in, or was that to keep the demons inside, to lock it up? And then suddenly I'm caught in a cone of light from nowhere. It startles me. And I figured, well, it's like when the night comes falling. And the cone of light was from a security car that had been parked catty corner. It was black and the night was dark to the murder house. And they were just checking on me. An officer called out, "Be careful, it's icy out there." And I said, "Thank you, officer." And I went on my way. But that sort of being surprised out there, I could almost imagine what it's like to be awoken in from your sleep in that house, have someone say, "There's someone here." And then you feel like the night comes falling from the sky.
Can you just describe, how did you start to follow this story, and what was your reporting like? I understand there were trips to Idaho, Pennsylvania, hundreds of interviews.
Right. I first really heard about the story, any detail, around the Thanksgiving table up in Connecticut, just days after the murder. People started talking about it, and I hadn't paid too much attention to it. And the more they talked about it, I was pretty interesting. It was a murder filled with perplexities. Nothing was known. And I thought this might be an interesting story to investigate. I called up Graydon Carter, or emailed him, who ran Airmail, and I said, "Graydon, who I'd worked for a while at Vanity Fair, and is an old acquaintance and a wonderful editor. I said, I'd like to go out there. What do you guys think? And he and Alexandra Stanley, who run Airmail, said, sure, go on out there. And I said, I don't know what I'll find, but go ahead, knock on doors. So I put on my reporter's trench coat, go out, knock on doors. And I was there for a couple of days, and I figured I had no idea that I was going to write a piece or even certainly not a book, but I thought I'd solve the case. This was when no one knew who the suspect was. And I figured it out. The house is sort of in this gully around it. And most of the fancier houses in the nearby that area were members of this local church group, the Christchurch Kirkers group. And they had some problems with the community. Their deacon had gone to jail for pedophilia. Their members of young women in the group had posted videos complaining about sexual harassment, sex crimes, whatever. And so I thought, well, maybe someone from this group was involved. Maybe it was of a sexual nature. So I tried to track down the minister, Doug Wilson, of the group, and he's not returning my calls. So intrepidly, I go to the
I wouldn't
church
probably ever
parking
your
lot,
call either, Bloom.
and I corner him, and he's very gracious. He's a very charismatic, wonderfully articulate man. I disagree with everything he says, but he's a very impressive figure, and he very graciously invites me into his office, and he's talking to me. We're sitting, almost catty corner in a room, and he's telling me the problems that they're having in the town with the local officials. He talks about a war with the police because of COVID restrictions, et cetera, et cetera. And I suddenly realized I'm trying to solve this case, and I'm in a room with this
I forgot about him.
man, as gracious as he is. He hasn't been vaccinated.
He was one of them people, mask, no vaccination. I mean, that's fine with me, but that's the group. That's the group that they were part of.
It's the height of the pandemic, and there are no windows. And 2 days later, I didn't solve the case, but I was stuck in Moscow with COVID. So that was my introduction to all this. Then on my second trip, though, I began to investigate more and trips to Pennsylvania and to Washington State. And I realized there was a compelling story here. And I started writing the pieces for Airmail. I eventually wrote 7 pieces. What I thought was, is there a book here? Is there a larger story to tell? There, everyone realizes there hasn't been a trial, but
we also read all of those Airmail. You know that Airmail was like $70 a year, y'all. That's insanity. For Airmail, for a freaking magazine, what? Huh?
Was there a story with a beginning, a middle, and an end? I realized there was very much the identification, the hunting down, the solving of the mystery towards the suspect Kohberger is a fascinating story, as well as the story of the individuals involved. And I found a way, I believe, to structure the narrative in a coherent and compelling and engrossing way, based around the road trip that Kohberger takes with his father, this trip across country. And my narrative inspiration, pretentiously, was the Odyssey, this long 10-year journey by Odysseus. Well, here I had just a 5-day journey, but it was, to me, rather compelling as Brian and his father make this cross-country trip, and hanging over the entire journey is the father coming to terms in his mind with whether or not, oh my gosh, could my son be actually involved in the murder of these 4 young people. That to me was a dramatic moment, and I use that to go back and forth in time to tell this tale.
Structurally, I think it works beautifully.
Thank you.
On that 5-day drive, can you talk us through it a little bit? I had not realized that the FBI were so uncoordinated with the ground officers. Can you just describe the details of that?
What happens is around December 11th, and this is one of the revelations in this book, the FBI, working in Quantico, has deciphered the genetic genealogy to make Kohberger a person of interest. They built out the family tree, and at the end of the father's branch, they found Brian Kohberger. They don't share this information with the local Moscow task force. Why do they not do this? Well, the most generous explanation would be that they're not sure. Investigative genetic genealogy is not allowed into courts. They don't want to prejudice the case. They want to make sure the task force connects all the dots. He's just a person of interest. That's a generous explanation. A more cynical explanation is that the FBI wanted to get all the credit for solving the case. They didn't want to share it with the local authorities. They wanted to come off as the G-men who solved this great mystery which the whole nation is fixated on. Whatever reason, when the Kohlbergers leave, the FBI is following them, but the FBI wants the Kohlbergers to get out of town first before they get directly on their tail. And they don't want the Moscow police to know, and they also don't want the Kohlbergers to know. Meanwhile, Brian Kohlberger picks a route, and he's not going the straightest, the quickest distance between 2 points is a straight line. He's not going that way.
Don't you think, I mean, man, Kohlberger, you were that oblivious to like a plane, an air. I mean, they just used like probably like a little helicopter to follow you or something. They didn't get no like gigantic plane to go up like high, so they were probably pretty low. He was just worried about tailing the person in front of him, I guess.
He's going down to Colorado. His dad had already marked it out. And so he's taking this different route because arguably he's trying to evade anyone following him. He's trying to take evasive actions. This change of route from what the father had previously planned and mapped out before he came out there leads to tensions. And Brian is extremely volatile. And his father realizes he's caught his son in a bit of a mood. And he's seen Brian's moods before. So his usual reaction is, whoa, he steps back. He doesn't want to get too close to this simmering volcano. So father is in this car. The FBI is following. They have vehicles on the road. They have a Cessna above like a hawk waiting to swoop down at the right moment when they can put the pieces together. And meanwhile, the father is slowly putting pieces together in his mind. 4 people were murdered just 10 miles from where his son is living. His son is in this highly agitated state. The father was concerned enough about his son to make the trip out there to accompany him. And they just happened to be sitting shoulder to shoulder in a white Hyundai Elantra, which is the precise car the authorities have announced they're looking for in this murder. So the father is, of course, suspicious. Then, as they drive across America, 2 things start to happen quickly by the second day of the trip. But first, after the FBI loses them and then finds them again, the first thing that happens is there's a shooting right near Brian Kohlberger's university residence. A Army veteran has taken 2 students hostage. He lets the students go. The SWAT team moves in. They can't talk him out of it, or the SWAT team acts arguably precipitously, and they shoot a veteran dead. And father and the son get an alert from the university about this, and this triggers off more thoughts in his father's mind about the malevolence of the situation his son is caught up in that there's something wrong with being with the West, and his son has been trapped in this, and oh my gosh. And just as these thoughts are taking shape in his mind, they see flashing lights, and there's a sheriff's deputy car in Indiana asking them to pull over. And this father at this point realizes, oh my gosh, everything I've been thinking about is quite possibly true, and this is some situation I'm in, and he doesn't know how to make this realization. But turns out, both to the father's relief and to the FBI's relief, who's also watching this, they don't understand what's happening. This was just a traffic stop. They go off. 9 minutes later, the same thing happens. Once again, there's a traffic stop, this time by a state trooper. He pulls the car over. Again, it's a traffic infraction. But the father now can't help but feeling all his thoughts are becoming true. Everything he feared, every thought he was trying to repress is becoming closer and closer to reality, as if he's following footsteps in the snow and getting closer and closer to his destination of where they're going to lead. And he doesn't like where it's leading one bit. And as this journey continues and as they arrive in Pennsylvania, the father is suddenly filled with a sort of dread that he can't quite articulate, but at the same moment, he knows what is happening.
It's such a harrowing account, and it's so well written, and hearing you speak about it now, it gets me so queasy. I can't imagine the level of emotional regulation a human would have to be in the car with your own parent, knowing that the police are looking for you, the world is looking for you, your car has been identified, and you're with somebody who knows you well. how do you keep that together? And we too have often speculated about what that car ride must have been like. You had an interesting point, and we had heard something similar too about the early days of.
Can you imagine that car ride? Like, really? What do you say? What do you do? I mean, you just act like nothing's going on. Hey, Dad. Oh my, as soon as I saw my dad, oh no. You know what I mean? Like, parents, no. Parents, mm-mm. I don't care how old you are. um, I know, I know my mom in my like, late 20s knew exactly what I was up to. Like, she could look at me and be like, "What did you do?" You know what I mean? Was he that good? Like, his dad didn't think nothing was going on?
Brian moving
Like,
into.
let's head all the way down towards Colorado and then shoot towards home. Let's just take another I don't even know. It was hours upon hours. Like, it was a lot of more. I can't remember how many hours I added onto their trip, but it was a lot. Like, as a father, why would you just be like, okay? Like, his dad seems like okay. Like, he just says okay to stuff. Like, we've read that before, where he's like, just backs away. Very weird. I'll have to find it. I don't know if I can find it, Mystic. I know I had I had that dress in every color. I had it in light blue. It was really pretty light blue. I had it when I worked in a boutique. I used to wear boutique clothes all the time. Now I never do. But they're so cute.
His apartment when he had actually made the move, and that dad was sort of, trying to, how we interpreted it
I love these dresses.
was
The
trying
fit,
to
they're
make him some
soft.
friends in and around the apartment complex.
Cool.
And just like.
Hey, Mary Beth, I don't know if you know, but that dress has pockets. Point blank period. That's a seller right there for me. I love a dress with pockets.
Like you, that always sort of stuck in my head because it was two-part. Either that means, look, my son's been a little bit awkward his whole life and maybe has a difficult problem with meeting new friends and social cues, et cetera. So dad's in the habit of trying to create comfort for his son, knowing that it's hard for him to kind of acclimate. That's sort of touching, and it kind of hurts to hear. Or does that also point to, I knew something was really seriously, dreadfully wrong with my son, and we're hoping for the best here, and he's off to the races, and I'm going to try my best, but he's a grown man. Where do you put that?
Yeah, it's sort of a little of both. I mean, you're right on. I agree with you very much. I mean, the father, 68 years old, money is tight in the family. He's a janitor. They've been bankrupt twice over the years. He still makes this cross-country trip in August with his son out to the university for the first time. Then he has to turn around and go again. And why does he do this? Because he's worried about what's going to happen to his son. How is his son going to fit in? He knows Brian is a square peg in every round hole. He's been in life, and he just doesn't know. And remember, this is not a father driving a young kid off to college like maybe we did at one point. Brian is 28 years old. He's going to be teaching young kids. He's a teaching assistant. He's going for his doctorate. And still the father feels he has to accompany him. And when he gets to Washington State University, one of the first things the father takes it upon himself to do, they saw a neighbor in the elevator, I think it was Christopher Martinez, so one of the guys, and he says, will you watch out for my son? He's a hard time making friends, anything you can do, I'd appreciate it. And Martinez is a generous soul, and 2 days later he invites Koberger to a pool party. And this is Koberger's first entrance into the pool party. Takes place in Moscow at a complex called, I think, the Grove in Moscow. And Brian goes to this pool party. And what happens at the pool party? I interviewed many of the people at the pool party. It's also sort of interesting. I mean, this is sort of news that hasn't been reported too. It sets the scene for part of who Brian is and why a book like this can come out now before a trial, because I like to think I'm giving you the reader's insight into the characters in this story. Brian goes to this party. He's sitting on the edge of the pool talking to one of the guys, and he sees these two young women, attractive women. They're in black two-piece bathing suits, and he goes up to one of them and just picks himself up without saying a word to the guy he's talking to, goes up and asks for her phone number, and he gets it. Then, without almost breaking stride, he goes to her friend and asks her, this is for her phone number, and he gets it too. And the guy who's watching him says, well, this guy's a player. He's he's a pretty cool dude. And Brian comes back and just leaves the party.
He looks like a pretty cool
I
dude.
spoke with the two women involved. He never called.
How much you want to bet those girls gave him a fake number? I mean, I don't see anybody being like, hey, can I have your number? Knowing someone to say, hey, can I have your number? And then looking at her friend, because that girl would think, oh, he likes me. He thinks I'm special. He wants my number, right? But then he looks
calls them.
But then he looks to your best buddy that you're with, your pool buddy, and he's like, can I have your number too? And then the girl has enough nerve, like that's girl code right there, right? You know what I mean? To say, yeah, let me give you my number. There's something wrong with that story. Or those two girls are not really good friends, because you do not do that to another girl. Like, think about it. You're sitting there, standing there with your friend. She has to be a friend of yours. She gives her number to a guy. And then all of a sudden he looks at you and asks you for your number too. And then you give it to him. I would say, hell no, you just asked for her number. What do you need mine for? Right? Like that's what would come out of my mouth all day.
However,
20,
after his arrest, they began
40,
to rethink the events.
Yeah, but,
and they realized they were getting a lot of hang-up calls in the weeks following their giving their phone number to Brian at the party. And they hypothesized that perhaps this was Brian calling them, but not having the nerve to initiate the conversation. And that's sort of the metaphor for the state he was in. He had taken himself so far. He had made this journey from this kid from a hardscrabble Pennsylvania community, from an overweight heroin addict, to becoming a doctoral candidate at a very prestigious university. And he had turned his body into a fortress. He greased his hair. He was looking, good. He was in shape. He was hanging out at the pool, and yet he couldn't go to the next step of integrating his life into that of a normal 28-year-old, a normal guy who wanted to just meet people and have friends and have a social life. It was just an impossibility for him.
Almost as though he mustered the courage and then couldn't follow through. So it took everything he had potentially. I've always sort of drawn a connection in my head. This is, again, only in my head, between Brian and his sisters. And just this, relationship he has with women is interesting, given he grew up as the baby of women and was raised by older sisters. And by all accounts, we hear they're lovely and all of the above. And I was curious if you just had an opinion on that. I know the dad is a primary focus.
One of his sisters, who's a family psychologist, plays an interesting role in all this. After they get back to Pennsylvania, it's the Christmas holidays, the whole family is there. And I describe as the sister, the psychologist, sees a couple of things that give her pause. She sees Brian cleaning out his car meticulously, the same sort of white Hyundai Elantra that the police just happened to be looking for that was involved in a quadruple murder. Then she sees Brian sorting his garbage, his personal garbage into plastic.
I'm gonna give him credit for the car. I mean, that car was filthy. I would have taken it anywhere. I would have stopped on the way home. That car looked like it was a different color. So, I mean, I can understand him washing it, but why wouldn't he take it to the car wash? You know what I mean? Like, what's he doing? Using the hose in the backyard or something? Like, that's kind of hard to do.
Ziploc bags, walking out of the house, going down the hill, not to the family's garbage pails, but to the neighbor's garbage pails and putting them in. And, these set her mind wandering, and she, realizes there's something seriously wrong. And what seems impossible might very likely be true. My brother might be involved in these 4 murders. And she goes to confront the father, and she says, Dad, I think we have to face up to something. I think we might have a problem. And the father, who's been having all these thoughts all the way across America, when he hears this, what does he do? He turns around and just leaves the room, because it's too impossible. It means thinking the unthinkable. And yet, as I point out in my book, there's sort of an irony that's as if the next scene comes from a Greek drama. And yet, when they identify the DNA on the button of the knife sheath, they don't identify it to Brian Koberger. They identify it to Michael Koberger. And then they realize that his son's DNA, the son of Michael Koberger's DNA, is on that knife sheath. So in many ways, like a Greek drama, the hero of the Greek drama or the victim of the Greek drama always tries to escape his fate, but he never can. He's always pulled back in. So is Michael Koberger. He's pulled back in. His fate is to, no matter how much he tries not to be his reason for his son's downfall.
Tracy, welcome.
I hadn't heard that account of his one sister and then the other sister, the middle sister.
So okay,
She was
this
an
is,
actress, and as you know,
this is Howard Bloom. So he is going over his book. It's like from his perspective. That's why I keep saying stuff. I'm like, so it's kind of from his perspective. Like he's going off of interviews that he's conducted since this happened. Like people that'll talk to him because he's a journalist. He's going off of like, the documents, and then he's just kind of putting in a little bit of, he's putting some common sense in, but then he might be putting in just like a little bit of extra. You know what I mean? Like that, like to me, some stuff doesn't sound right.
much has been made about this in a
So this is
slasher
like,
movie back many years ago.
allegedly.
But the plot line of that particular murder is that 9 co-eds go out into the woods and only 7 come back. And again, is that a direct connection?
Don't forget to hit that like button, please.
Of course not.
Mhm.
And I was just
You're
curious
welcome
if
to
you had
that.
heard
I
any
appreciate that.
rumblings about that.
I've heard the rumblings. I tried to connect the dots, and I couldn't take it far. I tried to stick to what I could substantiate. I didn't want to hypothesize more than was necessary about the course of events.
No, I will give him that. He didn't do too bad with like, he didn't go overboard. He really didn't. Like he could have, like he usually does in his
I
articles.
think because of the gag order, what this case needs is an injection of facts. There's such a vacuum of people being able to find out what really happened. And I wanted to try to fill that vacuum with not fatuous speculation or even vicious character assassinations, but I wanted to tell what happened. That gag order is particularly pernicious because the trial keeps on getting delayed and delayed and delayed. We have a town that's sort of been victimized by this. There's a lack of understanding. There's a lack of ability to move on. They can, bulldoze the murder house. The university can take it down, but that really is silly. You're not going to get rid of what happened that way. What you need is a sense of justice, a sense of a clear-cut ending, and that perhaps can only be resolved in a trial. And until the trial, I'd like to think that, When the Night Comes Falling is the best source of information to what really happened.
Let's stop here for a break. We'll be back in a moment.
It is Ryan here, and I have a question for you. What's word?
Oh, sorry, Mitch, you can't be trusted.
Summer day waiting in line for ice.
Stephanie and I continue our conversation with Howard Bloom, author of When the Night Comes Falling, Requiem for the Idaho Student Murders. I asked him about Doug Wilson, the head of the Christ Church in town, who had been feuding with local law enforcement and alleging, for his own reasons, that people shouldn't believe the police. To me, it seems like it would behoove the prosecution to also be in favor of a change of venue.
I think the defense is shooting themselves in the foot if they try to move the trial out of Moscow because of Doug Wilson. I sat in a room with him and he told me, I will tell my parishioners, anytime a Moscow police officer gets on the stand, you have every reason to be skeptical because he's lied about us in the courtroom. So there's no reason to believe that he won't lie about Brian Koberger. So you have to realize who the jury pool is going to be. A lot of people associated with the university will be just eliminated. There are people who have too much knowledge or have preconceived notions about the case. And then that leaves the members of Doug Wilson's church, 2,000 people. Every one of them will be skeptical about anything the prosecution says. So I think it's really odd that the prosecution is fighting the move from Latah County of the case. And I think it's even odder that the defense is trying to move it. And the only reason I can think that the defense is trying to go along with this is because it's part of the strategy that's undermined everything they've done since the beginning. And that strategy is one of delay, and more delay. Lawyers have a wisdom. They say when you have the facts, you pound the facts. When you don't have the facts, you pound the table. And there sure has been a lot of table pounding by the defense. There's been a rat-a-tat-tat of motion after motion after motion, just really to buy time. I mean, look what they've come up. It's been nearly 2 years, and they finally have released their expanded alibi. The alibi, what does it turn out to be, as we all know? Well, at 4 in the morning on a
It's
freezing
ridiculous.
night, Brian Koberg was out by himself in this
Sorry.
wilderness park where there were no witnesses, of course, except the animals, no cell towers, and he was staring on this frosty night at the stars in the freezing cold. Just happened when the murders occurred. And we had to wait 2 years to hear that without any substantiating information or corroborative evidence. And yet this has been dragging on and on. So I think this is a sort of a specious argument.
Think about that. You wait almost 2 years to hear about an alibi. That's like, you want to hear an alibi. You want to know where this person's saying they're trying to be. First, he says, he gives a little bit of his alibi, little bits of it. He was out driving. Well, okay. And Ann Taylor said it was before midnight. And we know his phone pinged when it was turned back on, like 5:30, 5:20 something. So that means he was driving around for like 6 hours. What was he doing? Like he didn't get gas. He didn't have to go to the bathroom. He didn't get a snack. He didn't get any food. He was just cruising for 6 hours. I don't think so. So then they come out with their extended alibi, and everyone's, you think, oh, this is going to be good. This is going to be good. Ann Taylor, she's going to do good. This is going to be good. He's stargazing. The fudge is, what do you mean? What do you mean, Ann? That's what you're giving us? If I was a family member, I would be so mad. Thank you, Warflare. Thank you for doing that. I was looking that up. Like, I'd be so upset. I would. And I'd be like, you better give me more than that.
Ann Taylor is a smart attorney. She's doing what she has to
Right,
do
Ladybug?
with the cards she's been dealt. But I think it's a mistake to move out of Moscow, and maybe she thinks she's just buying time again, and that the change of venue will never be approved, and then she'll breathe a sigh of relief.
Well, it looks like she's not even going to try for a change of venue, because in the documents it was saying Latah County has to pay for everything and all this and that about Latah County.
So what I was actually going to ask you about, and this was going back to your saying, how because of the gag order, there has been kind of a dearth of facts where otherwise there would be, and there has been so much conjecture. So in your book was something that we have been just wondering about, which is sort of placement in the house.
Also,
and
where's
specifically
the other
that the
attorney?
dog
Why is he on there?
was in the other bedroom of Maddie and Kaylee. Either I missed it or we couldn't find it in the affidavit. So I'm just curious, how did those facts come to clarity, if you can share?
According to law enforcement, I think it's been pretty well established that the dog Murphy, he was in Kaylee's bedroom, and Kaylee was in with Maddie. And that's why they left him in there. And the dog is howling ferociously. It's as if he can smell the blood. And
Howard, come on now, Howard. That's not how it happened, Howard Blum. I don't believe that.
he's in a state, you can hear it on some of the surveillance tapes, the dog just, barking wildly.
If the dog was barking wildly, I think somebody would have had to go upstairs to get the dog to stop barking. It was just barking and not stopping. It's wild. It's wildly barking. I don't think Murphy was a wild barker. Personally, I don't.
It's horrific to listen to.
So calm.
All these moments are extremely dramatic, and I try to do justice to them without exploiting them in the book. And it's a delicate balance, because the scenes are so gripping and yet so sad. And while there is a TV series going to be made for my book, you don't want to exploit it. You don't want to exploit the drama, but you want to do it in a fast, because the scenes are so gripping and yet so sad. And while there is a TV series going to be made for my book, you don't want.
What? Shut the front door. Seriously, what's it? If it's on Lifetime, I swear don't you dare be a Lifetime movie. Don't you dare. No offense to Lifetime. Yeah, there is offense. Those movies we're talking now. What in the world? What in the world? A TV series? Where's it at? What's channel? Like, this is insanity. They said they're gonna make a TV series out of my book. Oh my Lord.
Want to exploit it. You don't want to
Don't
exploit the
it.
drama.
Okay,
but
well, okay, we don't want to exploit it, but we've done articles, we wrote a book, and we're having a TV series, and we're on a podcast right now. And you have a YouTube channel. So where is it? Because you don't have merchandise with their faces on it yet? I mean, because that's not, like, literally the last thing you could be
you
doing.
want to do it in a factual way that conveys to people the horror of it. So it's a thin line and a delicate balance and
It'll
a
probably be
challenge for a writer and a reporter.
It better be somewhere I can stream it.
I thought it was so well
Trouble.
executed in that regard. And to Courtney's point, always imagined for ourselves, like, what was the order that night and who was happening upon whom and why? And, were they eating takeout? And, how dogs get around takeout, they get kind of ferocious and they want food. So you put them in the other room, or was the dog in the room? Maddie,
Ferocious.
Mogan working out the restaurant.
Dog don't
We had sort of always heard that and thought that that was a potential connection. And obviously, as you know, Xana worked there as well at the Mad Greek. And then we were never able to substantiate that. So is that the connective tissue? That's a pretty big bombshell.
Yeah, as I've been able to put it together, Koberger would go to the Mad Greek. He saw Maddie there. There's no evidence, none, I want to emphasize this, that he ever even spoke a word to Maddie. But for whatever reason, her beauty, her exuberance, her vitality, just her blonde good looks, somehow he fixated on that. And he was a man, as I've said, who's prone to obsessions. He measured out his life in obsessions, whether it was heroin or kicking heroin, whether it was losing 125 pounds and building his body back up, becoming from this mediocre student to becoming a graduate teaching assistant at a great university. He had all these large arcs in his life. And for some reason, Maddie became his fixation. And just like the girls at the pool party, he could fixate on it, but he could not take the next step. He could not involve himself in any realistic, communicable way in her life. And then her presence became not something that was an astonishment to him, but rather a rebuke. And this rebuke gnawed and gnawed at him until he felt that the demons that were pursuing him, the only way he could live in this world, and here I'm hypothesizing, was to get rid of Maddie, to get rid of what was causing him such distress. The pain was so hard. And yet, he still tries to fight it. As I said earlier, when he goes to the house those 3 times, each one of those 3 trips is an attempt first to go toward the house and then to get away until he finally crosses the line that's dividing the idea and the reality, and he succumbs to the demons inside him, and he becomes the monster I believe that he was fated to be.
Okay, Howard
You
Blum.
can really feel that tension as it's described of the, do I go there? Do I pull back? I had a follow-up question on that. And do we know that Koberger, or, he's presumed innocent, of course, as is anyone until they go to trial. Do we know that Maddie and Kaylee's room was visited first by the murderer?
Yes, that's what the authorities believe. And, he doesn't go into the room with the dog. He goes right.
Y'all saw that picture with that bed down, that bed cover down. I fully, in my heart and my head, believe that Kaylee was in her own bed. She sees, because she maybe she had her door open. Maybe she went and opened it. But she turns down the blankets, because the blankets are turned down in her bed. You can see it from the window if you zoom it in. She goes, you can see, like, in the picture there, like right on the screen, like you can see Maddie's bed. You have a perfect visual shot from the door to see Maddie in the bed, like where Maddie would be sleeping. Her body would be right there. Like, so Koberg would be standing there. I think she saw an unfamiliar figure. She walked out of her door. She turned around. She said, "Murphy, stay in the room." She shut the door. Murphy's in the room. She walks in, and that's when, I think all hell broke loose. That's my personal opinion. Howard Blum.
Right into Maddie's
I got
room,
more opinion,
and then he's
too,
surprised,
about the entry and
I believe,
exit.
to find Kaylee there too. And this is also,
If I'm right.
it's been
Hey,
say
Roro.
that's been reported that the
Welcome
wounds
in.
that Kelly receives are much more ferocious.
Meet
And I
our
think the
meet our
reason for
mods.
this is not just that she fights
Where you
back,
at night?
he's surprised to see her, and he sees his carefully imagined plan is now going awry. And he's lashing out in anger at her, at himself, and his plan falling apart. And in
I
this
have a picture
state of
right here.
intense mental and physical activity, he just leaves the knife sheath behind, and his carefully laid out plan is already undone in the first moments. And I think, as I said, after the murder of Maddie, the three other murders that follow are grim, horrific collateral damage.
You mentioned something that had escaped me, which was the way the coroner described the different wounds on.
Well, if that's the case, right? They're just collateral damage. Then there's no way that Brian saw Dylan because he would have unalived her unless he was so tired and just trying to get out of there. And she got lucky. But I mean, if he's just taking people out because they were in the way, like, I mean, she's right there.
On the different people. It was interesting. Is there anything you
And I wonder if her door made any noise when it opened. Do you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if they could hear it from Xana's room. I guess we'll never know now. We'll never know. But because like some doors squeak or they have like, you know what I mean? Like a noise to them. Like my front door squeaks when we open it. I won't fix it. It's like my security. I feel like I know when someone comes in that door because it makes a squeaky noise.
wanted to say about they're not discrepancies, they're different
That's
words,
really
but they're very
quiet.
different words that are used.
They're very different words, and that points out two things, I think. The level of sophistication or lack of sophistication of the coroner, she rather, has now given ammunition that will be used by the defense to raise doubts. I mean, all the defense has to do is raise doubts with the jury. And the second, how hard it's going to be to, while I believe Kohlberger is guilty, how hard it will be to make the case. There's the dialectics of a courtroom, which basically every expert you bring in, you can bring in a counter expert. So you can have someone say, touch DNA is the gold standard, it never fails. You can find someone else who will point out, well, that's not so fast. Touch DNA is really not that great. And in case law after case law after case law, well, we've had to impugn it. And on and on and on. And this coroner's report is going to raise more questions. I think they're legitimate answers, but it's up to a skilled attorney to phrase the questions in a way that they will resonate in the juror's mind. And I think they've handed them one they can knock out of the park, perhaps.
You bring up the level of sophistication of the small town, which it was really interesting how when you had laid it out that Moscow police, the entire department had 37 members, and yet the quote backup of the FBI were 40 members.
And the FBI brought in their own trailer. They had their own sort of offices to keep them separate from the Moscow cops in the parking lot of the police headquarters building. Interestingly, about the police headquarters building, it's about 100 yards from where the Brian Kohlberger was at the pool party. It's right at the bottom of that hill that you go up to get to the Grove. You know, when he drove by that first night, he was literally driving by the police headquarters and Chief Fry's window.
Just the way things intersect, such as the pool party, and I won't give away how you bring in sort of the pool party in the end unless you want to speak about the potential other leads.
I don't want to, give away too much of the book. One of the things I tried to construct was a pretty suspenseful, almost mystery story, and I don't want to, ruin the mystery for readers. I like them to be able to sit down. It's not a long book. It seemed to take forever to write, and I think.
What were the other? I don't know the other ways that this could have happened. I don't remember him saying that.
I'd like people to get caught up in the experience of reading it.
And thank you, Mary
follow
Beth.
the mystery along.
Thank you for the gift of membership, Mary Beth. And Warfare got it. Look at that.
With me as I was writing it.
Let's stop here for another break. We'll be back in a moment.
Judy was boring.
And sending me over our new Wi-Fi.
It's meant to be savored. So
Stephanie and I continue our conversation with Pulitzer Prize-nominated author Howard Blum, whose in-depth reporting prompted him to write the book When the Night Comes Falling, A Requiem for the Idaho Student Murders.
not to put words in your mouth, but all of our hearts are with the friends and families, obviously, of the beautiful victims. And obviously the town is kind of trying to heal, I would imagine. Was there any takeaway just from being there and sort of being in that beehive during this critical time?
Yes, I think healing is impossible for the town until there is a trial, until there is a verdict. And I think the town will always be suspicious. I think you can knock down, bulldoze all the, that murder houses that you want, and yet the demons will still be unleashed. And yet there also is a history of savagery in that town. I mean, I found a book that was written in 1945 by a woman by Carol Ryan, whose grandfather was a town doctor. And he was just shot in cold blood. And she writes about the savage forces that are at bay in this town. It's still a wild Western place. Every police officer now has an emblem, a shoulder patch on his police uniform, and it shows the clock tower in town. The clock tower is set for 1:49, I think it is, and that was the hour of the day where Lee Newbill, who was a police officer there, was shot and killed by a deranged gunman who also killed a church deacon. There's been very many unexplained outbursts of violence in the town. There's a task force that's been looking into child pornography in the town. There's large drug use. It's a pretty place, but it's a deceptive place. And it's a town almost on the verge, as one of the lawyers in town told me, of a civil war. Because on one side, you have this right-wing church group that wants to create what they calls a theocracy, where Moscow is the capital of the American redoubt. This redoubt is a conservative nation. And on the other side, you have one of the most liberal universities in the state, a party school, the first-ranked party school in all of Idaho. So these two cultures, these two values clash, and you can see it when you walk down Main Street. On one side of Main Street are the old businesses that are owned by the Christchurch Kirkers. On the other side are the freewheeling bars and places where kids hang out. And there's also a really good Italian restaurant opposite the Kirker Church. It's really good.
Everybody hit the like. Let's try to get to 100 likes.
Does
We're about
come to
done.
life. I have a specific question. You mentioned that Kaylee's father was going through Kaylee's phone in an effort to understandably get to the bottom of what happened with his daughter. Why didn't authorities have her phone?
Well, Kaylee's father is an interesting character in this whole story. I never interviewed him, but I spoke to a lot of people who spoke with him. He's made lots of public statements. And to my mind, he's in many ways a hero. I mean, he's someone who refuses.
When Blum came out with that old chapter 6, I thought he said he knew him. He met him, he talked to him, he conversated with him.
Refuses to let his daughter's death become a cold case.
Now
he refuses to accept things at face value, and he wants to get to the bottom of things. And there's something very valiant, very heroic. He's like a figure from Shakespeare who just wants to keep on going and find out what's happening. At the same time, while he's doing this, he's also in many ways destroying his ability to get over these events. He's caught up in it. He's now, I think, angry with my book. I'm not quite sure why. Actually breaks my heart.
I can tell you
the
why.
The last person I would want to do is insult him. How can you impugn any action taken by a man who lost his daughter, the father of 3? My heart goes out to him. A man who has to say to reporters, you send your girl off to college and she comes back to you in an urn. That kind of statement is heartbreaking. And a man who stares into the camera when he's being interviewed and says to the killer who's out there, I am coming for you. He's making a promise to the killer and a promise to himself. So in that way, I think he's a hero, and his actions are heroic. And I'm just sorry he's not happy about the way he's portrayed. I tried to, I think, do it respectfully and with dignity, and I thought I treated his daughter with dignity too. And that was, if I didn't, certainly apologize for that.
Bad.
Because these,
you can tell. I mean, Steve must have said something big to him.
Kids were just wonderful young people, and to not have the chance to live out their lives and to be what they were going to be is just unfair. The heavens were just not fair to them.
I've seen so much footage of Mr. Gonzalez, and I think I speak on behalf of anyone who's been following this case. We are rallying for every parent and every family member to get justice. And it's true, when he does speak into the camera, you feel it like a dagger in your own heart. So yeah, collectively, I think we can all agree that for every parent who's gone through a nightmare like this, and then to them specifically, there's no words really.
I appreciate your giving the time, and I hope people will read the book on two levels. One, as this suspense story that's a police drama, and then secondly, as a character study of, some ways, two fathers who become victims of this whole drama, of Michael Koberger, Steve Goncalves. Both of them get caught up in events that are just unimaginable, larger than lives, and are impossible to deal with, and yet they have to deal with the impossible. There's a tension in this entire book, and even as I go around talking about it, talking about things that don't make sense and yet happened.
No, you don't know. Oh,
More on that next
I'm gonna
time.
drink.
For more information on
Okay, Howard Bloom.
Opposite of Main Street.
Sorry. That's the end of the podcast. He is something else, isn't he? He is something else. I had to stand up for a minute, so I'm standing. Let me see if I can get the banner down. And then go back to original. Okay. So yeah, that was the podcast. Did you guys like it? It was okay. It was, Howard Bloom. He's a character, you know what I mean? He really is. He's a character. I don't believe a lot he says. I think he's trying to make it a little more salacious. It's already there. You don't need to add anything to it. But when he puts when he says talks about their blonde hair, describes Kaylee and Maddie by their hair color, and I don't know, the way he talks, he talks about them is just weird. Why are we not talking about Xana and Ethan? What, do they not exist in this story there, Bloom? Because you didn't mention them once. I don't think he mentioned them once. But he said he's not exploiting. But he's going to write a part 2 to this. You know that, guys. Kohlberger has went to trial. He's going to write a Kohlberger part 2. Trial. Boom, boom, boom. And I'll probably buy the book. That's $24. That book was on sale though. It was $30. It was okay. It wasn't bad. I have another book that's Idaho also. I'm going to read that one and let you guys know about it. But I couldn't imagine being one of the family members and them having a book written about your daughter or your son. Don't have the whole story. You don't know the whole story. I could see where the Gonzalez are a little upset, Really, Ozzy? They like blondes? Guess I'm good. I'm going gray. If I'm ever late coming on live, it's because I'm over here trying to pick the grays out of my hair. I only have 4, but I swear these things come back overnight. I think I'm getting more. There's something I was going to tell you guys. Oh, I was going to show, I'll have to show you that dress, Mary Beth. I'll put it up on the tonight's live because I think that I sent it to myself. Yeah, I had that dress in every single color. But I'll have to send them to you. I didn't even realize I had 6 colors. If you like something, you like something, Seems out of the 4, you hear more about Kaylee than Maddie, Harley, Ethan, and Maddie. Yeah. Or Ethan, Xana. Yeah, I know what you meant. Yeah. It's been like that. It's been like that. I don't know. There's just something to me about Xana and the way that she lived her life. I feel like a lot of people could learn from her. She didn't have it easy at all, at all, it seems like. And she still overcame and was so positive. And in her videos, you see her being so funny and free and including people, I don't know. I feel bad for all of them. I hate that this happened to them. And we've been talking about this since it happened. And I still feel the same as I did the day that it happened. Just very confused. Like, why? Why would this happen? And it's crazy because there was two unalivings on this day, but the other one happened. I can't remember where, Virginia or something, but it was kind of like a shooting, and they knew who did it, so it was like wasn't as big as of a deal. But this one like took off. This case really was something. It is something, you know. I think a lot of people aren't talking about it right now because the gag order, I guess, but we got to keep the word out. But we are going to talk about Sarah Boone tonight. Can't wait. I can't wait to watch the rest of her interrogation. I've been thinking about it all day. I'm like, this is going to be funny. So I'll be back on in a couple hours to do that. Like 9:15, 9:35, somewhere around there. And we will talk Sarah Boone. If you don't know who Sarah Boone is, she decided to play hide and go seek with her boyfriend, Jorge Torres, and she zipped him up in a suitcase, left him there to die. And she recorded it on video, which is out. You can see it doesn't show the death. It just shows him in there, like it just him wanting to get out. She went to bed. The next morning, just hung over, walks down the stairs and says, "Oh crap! Huh? Oh, Jorge, he's still in the suitcase. Got to get him out." Well, a little too late, Sarah. So she's her own attorney also. She's went through 8 or 9 of them, and now, you know, she's an attorney of herself. My sure says Dayton, Ohio. I think Dayton. No, it says Dayton Strong. It's from whenever there was like tornadoes. So I worked for a company and they made these shirts and for like Dayton, and I have one. I have one for like every place in Ohio. Columbus, Dayton, Cincinnati, Cleveland. I don't know. Actually, I don't think I have a Cleveland one. I gotta get a Cleveland one. Can't wait for Sarah Boone. I know it's gonna be so funny, Lisa. I think I mean, oh, I forgot how funny the interrogation was. We went over this like a year ago or something. But I literally don't remember any of this, and it's just hilarious to me because she's alone. She's out there. So it'll be a good life. So I'll be back a little bit later tonight. I'm gonna go over to Target. Gotta grab some stuff for the house, you know. I can't leave you on a suitcase. I did, Stephanie. I got in there. I need to get that suitcase actually back in here. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time because I think it's behind like a bunch of totes. Maybe I'll probably just go buy another one. If I ask Vincent to get it out, he'll probably just say go buy another one. That'd be funny. We need to know the dimensions. I wonder if we can figure that out. Like it's where I can get like the same, like a replica. I'm gonna look into that because it has to be kind of the same to do it. But I'll get in it. I mean, I know that I trust Vincent. I do. I mean, I do get on his nerves sometimes. I don't think he would lock me up in a suitcase. She's going to defend herself. I know. I can't wait. First day. What's she going to say? Opening statements. They're going to be so long. But thank you guys all for being here. I appreciate you. A little bit of a day live. Thank you, Isabel. Thank you, Jan, for coming. I appreciate that so much. Those are my mods. They came today because we had a day live. But thank you guys so much. I love you guys. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you. But we'll be back later to talk Sarah Boone. So you guys have a wonderful evening. If I don't see you later, have a wonderful day tomorrow. Bye, guys.